in the upper left in the red. He is for those platinum heroes, looking to show what he's got here in this series. He's HateMe.
And in the bottom right, he's had some very close series. Unfortunately, he was not able to pull them out in the end, so he is right now sitting at 2-2, looking to try and eke his way into that 4th place spot. Ladies and gentlemen, for Shopify Rebellion, it's the captain himself, Harstem. And Bayo, have you been keeping track of the Platinum Heroes run in the World Team League?
I am tangentially aware. Their admin keeps trying to get me to cast, and it's like, well, there are 3 other people casting, and it's like it's very early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not been keeping aware of it as much as I should. As a true StarCraft fan, I should have an encyclopedic knowledge of literally every single pro match that happens every week, but I'm not that good. I'm sorry.
There's just a lot of StarCraft going on, and it's both a blessing and a curse. Of course, we all like that there is so much StarCraft action. We love that there's so much support for the scene and the community. At the same time, it does make it very hard to keep up with everything that is happening with weekly cups, with DreamHack, and then also World Team League and show matches, all those sorts of things. But the Platinum Heroes, obviously, HateMe is playing in that World Team League, so honestly, they've been getting a lot of practice. Especially HateMe has been getting a lot of practice against very, very good players. I mean, in that World Team League, you're playing against also the best Korean players in the world. And so that's what we kind of say. We've seen some great stuff, but of course, it has yet to really come together, because knowing how to maneuver yourself into a good game state and then actually winning are 2 very different things.
You know, Titan, I feel like that's a story we've been telling a lot over the last 2 weeks. We have, you have the Serals, and you have even to say Skillus, who is finally, it seems like everything is clicked and he's there. But we have these players that are absolutely doing fantastic. They're topping their groups. They're doing everything that we would have expected. Mm-hmm. And then you have these players that show hints of promise. Say a Soul Spirit taking down Raynor. A Milky Cow who took down Max Paxton, looked good, but also loses to players he shouldn't, where they're learning and they're figuring out how to handle the pressures of big games and significant underdog status, and it's working for them sometimes. But they don't have enough experience yet, maybe. They don't have quite as much polish yet to be able to actually consistently transition that into big wins. And I think that's what we're going to see here is Harstem. For now, he is active. Is that okay? A bit interesting there. You do not normally see Stalkers this far out on the map this early, killing Overlords this far out on the map, but Harstem is going to get a nice little bit of a trade here to start and knocking down an Overlord. You're never going to say no to that one, but he's, the Oracle here at the Lings, this really should not kill this should not kill the Stalker. So Lings, they got to run away, and Harstem, well, we should talk about this game for a moment. He's going, it looks like, into that hero style once again.
Yep, and has the 2nd Oracle on the way. Would not be surprised if he adds on the 3rd. Of course, the nice part of having these Lings across the map is that the Oracle is kept at home, has to use all of its energy just stopping that Stalker from dying. You do commit, 8 Lings to it and still lose the Overlord, which is never nice as the Zerg, but you're really not worrying about these Oracles getting any drone damage. So HateMe, he is just macroing up right now. 4 drones on the way, more Overlords. He's not really worrying about Harstem being across the map at all.
Yeah, not really, but this is not really Harstem's time to get active on the map right now. He's got 2 Oracles, and you can do some stuff with that. Somewhat surprised to not see a 3rd one, but this is Berlingrad. It's the 2nd shortest rush distance in the pool. But he does have Blink on the way, right? He's getting that Forge, and that's going to be his timing. In about 2 minutes, he's going to have Blink, he's going to have +1. That's when HateMe is really going to have to start to swell the units. But for now, you get a little bit, you make sure, okay, depths don't randomly run across. Things like that, but here comes Harstem with these Oracles, with these Stalkers, and maybe he's caught HateMe sleeping just a little bit, but, well, actually, with only 9 Lings, that may be a bit of a HateMe's going for something interesting here. He is on 9 Queens. That is not something you do against this style normally, so, some sort of Nidus play, maybe? I don't know, but we do see HateMe playing counter to the meta a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Queens means that he hasn't had to give over drones to building spore crawlers. So he's actually completely eliminated that part of this defense that you will usually see. And it does mean that his drone count is very healthy. He's at 48. He's almost saturated this third base, but just needs a little bit more to get there. As Revelations do go down, the Oracle's not able to snipe away any more drones. And again, it's just been mitigating drone loss right now. Only 2 have gone down, and the Stalkers are going to now attempt to push onto this creep, probably clear it up with a Revelation. The Queens will be brought forward, and Blink not ready just yet, so Harstem can't really commit in, but has additional gateways on the way. That robotics facility, though, is quite late, so you're not going to have that warp prism for additional warp-ins. Or not late, but is quite delayed, so you're not going to have additional warp-ins immediately, which just means that Harstem, you're not really going to have that option of really having a powerful push across the map just quite yet. You still need to wait a little bit longer.
And you got to remember, though, being able to warp in right there matters a little bit less in this game because this is Berlingrad and you can warp in and your base and still get across the map pretty quickly. But it looks like HateMe, even though he does go 9 Queen, which is something that we generally see against Mass Sky Toss, if that's what you're going to go for, he's just playing a standard game behind that. He's on 66 workers, and that's maybe a little bit low for the stage of the game. He's not going to get this 4th base up. But he's not really going for any sort of specific queen walk, no push, nothing like that. We don't see any overlords being turned into dropper lords. So here come the Stalkers here. They're trying to make something happen. Their +1 is done in 10 seconds. Lings, we are already seeing HateMe take this fight a little bit better than we saw, say, a young Yakov do, where we actually see Lings on the field. HateMe bleeds the Lings off. He goes back. He waits for more Lings to pop out. He takes the fight again. It's a more efficient ebb and flow of the game state.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, this is what we've been saying. HateMe, you can see that, everything is right now falling into place. Sitting at 141 supply, is sitting at a very, very healthy drone count, getting up that 4th base. Of course, maybe would like it to be a little bit higher, and that's why he is adding on the 12 now, additional drones. But has the roach count, he's going to be completely safe from those Blink Stalkers, and that means that Harstem has to pull back and start preparing for the next stage of the game. That's going to be a 4th Nexus, +2, charge, and the Immortals, and really getting into this very, very powerful ground army that we saw, sorry, I completely forgot, that we saw earlier in the day, except, maybe minus the 12 Immortals being the entirety of the army.
Okay, in fairness, Titan, it wasn't the entirety of the army. It was only like 95% of the army. So, you know what? 5%, it's really, and that's not even true. What I want to talk about, though, Harstem, unlike a lot of these Protoss, when we talk about this modern style, is the fact that he is actually going for a quick storm in this game. Right? That is not something that we always see. In fact, it really is not common at all. We do see gas spent into Archons, into Immortals. Even you just delay the gas a little bit, but Harstem, knowing or scouting that this is +1 melee, so Banelings will be a potentiality or actually a heavy likelihood in this game. He says, yeah, let me get Storm, let me get my 6 High Templars, and when you try to take a fight against me, Force Fields, Storms, good luck, HateMe. Your power in this army, it's going to go pop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Harstem already sitting right now at 6 High Templar means that he's going to have a lot of those available when that, now that research has finished. And this push, it's looking pretty dangerous. That Baneling speed not done quite yet, so you're not going to just yet have that potential for this round. But Harstem's still not feeling entirely comfortable pushing across the map. Doesn't want to push onto creep. Feels like HateMe has just enough to keep the Protoss at bay as Harstem is getting up his own 4th base. That +2 will be finishing up shortly, though, and that might just be the trigger for Harstem to start trying to find some trades here on the map, especially with the sell it run by already set up. Actually, 2 of them even.
Yeah, I'll buy that, Titan. It is interesting to see this style happening and not see a lot of aggression with it. The entire point of this Oracle into ground toss style is because it forces the Zerg to consistently trade in a negative way. It doesn't feel that great, but here comes the flank coming in from every side. The Bane's on top of everything. Storms are going to be nice, but they're going to be late. Harstem, he loses 30 supply in the blink of an eye, and yeah, he may be able to kill this base on the bottom side, but that did not feel good for our Dutch Protoss. Not at all. He's going to get aggressive once again. That Zelen run by you pointed out earlier, trying to find something. Banes continue to roll in. Storms starting to be nice. But it's 160 supply to almost 200. Harstem is down 40 army supply. Again, HateMe has this surround set up. Titan, I don't know what Harstem is. I mean, Storms are going to be good.
I mean, the Storms are actually really, really good, but they're just so much Zerg. And HateMe 2 times in a row, perfect surround setups. I mean, that is how you play Zerg clinically. in these engagements. You set up this round, the Banelings come in, Harstem isn't ready, and HateMe just crushes the setup that Harstem had been preparing for the past, 6 minutes. Harstem had been sitting, waiting to spring that trap, and HateMe just utterly crushes it.
That he does. I was trying to say something before they took the fight, but this style from Harstem is built around being aggressive on really keeping the Zerg down in terms of economy, in terms of army. You don't let them max out, not easily. You don't take it to 9 minutes. You don't let their creep spread as hard as HateMe has been allowed to spread in this game. This is what happens. It is a 70 army supply lead. HateMe, he's running in. He's played a lot of mini games, but at the end of the day, he will win this Mario Party. We're going to see the probes go in, and they're just dead. Archon is all that remains. There is truly nothing left here for Harstem. Some Zealous warp in for just a second, but that is not enough in the extreme. It's over about the crying, folks. The captain, he's got a hole in his ship. It's starting to list to one side, take on water. We're going to have to see whether he can bail it out well enough in that second game, but for now, that ship is sinking.
Yeah, and even if it isn't a loss here, it's enough damage that it feels like HateMe will be able to regroup, re-max out, and then go for another push. Again, just a perfect example of how you set up engagements as Zerg. And it was done almost immediately. It was instinct here for HateMe, who's going to try and take this fight. He has more units here in Harstem. He wants to hold this third base. He knows that if this drops, there's going to be a massive hole in his defense. The corrosive battles do go down, and hey, the value units are here. It's 2 Immortals, it's 2 Archons. They don't die that quickly, but it is just a war of attrition right now, and HateMe has to be a bit careful. I think just pulling back and remaxing right now might be the best call.
Yeah, I'll buy that one. His creep spread is so far forward. He could bring his queens forward. He's on 6. He's lost a couple. Fine. But you bring the queens forward, that deals with the Oracle that is doing such a fantastic job at knocking down these Ravagers that are in the back line. And eventually he should be able to build that army up. I do like, again, as you said, I do like that backup there. It means that he's not going to keep bleeding away units that almost kill Harstem, but not quite. So you're not going to have that position where maybe you just out-trade just a little bit much. But Harstem has been doing a decent job of rebuilding himself. He's got 3 Archons now. He has some Immortals. He's got his 5th base on the way. Force Fields are going to catch a single Baneling, and that's nice. Hey, you know what? 75 minerals, 25 gas. It's something. But it looks like we have Banelings on into this 4th base. The probes are trying to run. Ooh, good warp-ins there from Harstem. It will keep them alive, even as they're trapped in a corner. But this 5th base, that's going to be a different story here, Titan. This thing should fall, at least, very least the workers in the mineral line. They should pay that price.
Yeah, 18 probes go down, and you gotta love, even though HateMe is not trading the most efficiently, how he's taking his trades. Baneling run by is taking advantage of the fact that he has more army, that he has so much map control. The creep is at the 3rd. How often do you see this? HateMe, this has been an incredible game from him, and he's going into Hydras. Lurkers will be the tech of choice, and that's only if the game goes long enough for him to get into Lurkers. Right now, it's looking like 174 supply. He's just going to keep on pounding until he can eventually close out this game. A nice storm, though, and you see those legs? They get pretty bruised from that.
They do, but again, the problem in this game is the fact that Lurkers are on the way. Storms, yeah, they can soften Lurkers up a little bit, but you really do want Disruptors if you are a ground Protoss. Or, maybe if the Lurker count is small, you can say, yeah, it's fine. Baneling runs by. It looks like it does get more workers here. We're going to see this 5th base. It is going to get targeted down. Lings, though, they say, no, we can't make it happen. So it will stay alive for now, but eventually run by from HateMe should be able to clean that one up. But the problem is, again, HateMe is advancing in his tech. He has his hive. He has Lurkers on the way. +3 melee, eventually Adrenal. This army that he's building, now that he's finally decided to tech up, Harstem just does not have the tech to deal with it, and I'm not convinced he will have the tech to deal with it in this game.
But look at this army that he has amassed. The thing is, Harstem, he has been taking very, very good trades. He's kept his Archons alive. He's kept his Immortals alive. He's sitting at 7 Archons. Those units, they do not die. Of course, the upgrades are not really there for him. He just has the +3 attack. So his army hits hard. It will just shred, though, as soon as those Lurkers come through. And there we go, a run by again from HateMe. Just playing where Harstem is not right now as he's preparing his army. The Lurkers burrowing down, and they don't have their upgrades just yet, but they don't really need them because all their job is to keep this Protoss army off the bases until HateMe eventually can find a good trade.
Harstem does have a bit of a win condition right here. We don't have Lurker burrow speed just yet. This is still a decent amount of Archons. There's a lot of Storm in this army. His upgrades have just completed, so he has +3 attack. His shields something. And the army that he has active on the Zerg's creep is rather big because there's a lot of a Zerg on the other side of the map here, as that warp in is actually going to force a lot of banelings to go down. Looks like the run by from HateMe is starting to fall down here, and we got to give Harstem credit where credit is due. He did not die in that push around the fourth. He is getting close to max out here. His upgrades are good. He's got plenty of storms, but HateMe is looking for this round. Once again, we're going to see lurkers try to burrow storms on top of them, but they're not going to pop just yet. A couple will. They're getting very low. And here's the thing, Harstem was able to run back for the most part. Not too many lurker spines getting what he wants. Harstem now active on the map as well. Archon's on the left side. He says he pushed back the run by. He's going to make something happen elsewhere. Push back on the right side as well. Harstem, he's starting to swarm in this game. He's starting to make me believe, Titan.
Yeah, the Hydras are going to be able to clean up the left flank, but now Harstem, he's committing onto the lurkers. Great revelation, gets them revealed, and is going to be able to keep pushing this. Still has so many storms available. HateMe. But look at Harstem's supply. He's traded so many units here. Now Ling's on top of the High Templar. Storms have to go down just to protect them. It's 130 supply versus 150. And this game is starting to get very, very scrappy.
That it is. Lings to the third base of Harstem. They have +3. They don't have Adrenal, which actually is a bit of a mistake there from HateMe, but they do have +3. They shred probes, but HateMe, he's giving up a base. More drones will go down. He's going back down to 4 bases here effectively. Yeah, he's got the base to the north side, but it's not mining. Harstem can kill it pretty much whenever he wants. The probes, though, they got to go back to mining on that 4th base from Harstem. He pulled him off for the run by. He was able to hold, but he does need to keep mining with them. The longer this goes, the economic advantage that he is resecuring is not really there. So there he goes once again. He's mining from his 4th base. His army supply is equivalent. He's gonna kill this base here. I do want to see him go back and actually kill that 4th, but he's gonna try to chase this army down. And as much as we have celebrated the complexity that HateMe has been able to make, you talked about this at the start of the game, Titan. HateMe is so good at finding positive game states for himself, but his ability to actually turn them into game wins is maybe not there yet.
And we saw it against Mana even in week 1. Great positions, but not quite able to close it out. Now, though, HateMe, he needs to remake his army. He needs more gas to get more lurkers, and that was a big issue. He didn't have gas mining on 2 of those bases when he had them almost fully saturated. And so the complexity of this army is much less than you like. Only 5 lurkers available. Banelings have been used for run-bys, but they are mostly all Aganas. This is most of the Banelings. This is all of the Banelings that HateMe has available running away now, as they aren't able to complete that run by Harstem. He is long-distance mining, though. Has not reestablished the Nexus. Does have enough money for it, but honestly, right now is just looking towards that max out. And right now we're looking at really High Templar energy. Where is it at? There's still plenty of storms available. I think about 4 or 5 in this army. As War Prism is just running around. Hasn't been caught just yet. Of course, no Spire for Corruptors. HateMe, though, is going to look for another run by onto this 3rd, but look at Harstem's vision. He's got an observer set up just to see this, but HateMe's going to go for the 1-2 once again.
Yeah, this run by, it's going to try to get something done. And actually, yeah, okay, there we go. There's the vision on those lurkers. Oracles, again, proving their value. But this is not to kill that base or even to do a lot of damage. It is to cancel the 5th base that Harstem has been trying to get for the 3rd time now. And for a 3rd time, he will be denied. We see some probes fall as well, so the worker differential not quite as big. But this warp in, finally we're seeing this base go down. No, it looks like HateMe. No, wait a minute, he's not targeting the warp prism. He's gonna get the base. No, he's not. No, he's not.
2
HP. 2 hit points on that base.
As HateMe, he's looking to push here with lurkers, but look at the supply. Harstem just has some great storms there onto all of the army. He's coming in with a full 360 surround as Harstem. It looked like he might be down and out, but he's going to be able to fight his way back in this game. HateMe, his army was split up. He lost too much trying to find game-ending damage. And suddenly the captain, he's able to maneuver his way back into this game, maneuver his way into a victory. And GG, Harstem.
Titan, I was talking about, it's like, okay, is Harstem able to patch his boat between games? Is the captain able to take the series that way? But Harstem, he had an inflatable dinghy that he was able to jump to in the middle of that game, hoist his flag, attach the motor, and just go tooling away and say, yeah, I don't really care about that boat. I have another boat, and I'm going to be able to hold that one out. What a game from Harstem. That was, I think we can say that one, Harstem was dead. Harstem was very dead after that fight.
I mean, I think what a game from both players. I think you have to give credit to HateMe. It was an incredible early game, really played with his advantages, and the mid game looked stellar, honestly. I think, honestly, HateMe, in these weeks, he has shown he has a solid understanding of early game Zerg in most of these matchups. In the mid game transitions, it's just closing out these games that continues to elude him. And that's something that comes with experience, of course. You know, it's his first time here and he's still doing so well. And we're on to Glittering Ashes. This is a large map. This is one where you can go late. You know, this might be a chance here for HateMe to tie this up. And of course, if you get the win, if HateMe wins this series, then suddenly it's going to look a lot different for the group. It's going to be a lot closer between HateMe, Harstem, and Mana. Those three are suddenly going to be in a very tight race to try and advance.
That they are. I mean, Glittering Ashes is going to be our next map here in the pool. We're waiting for Harstem to come back. He'll be there in a second. And we're moving into, again, a much bigger map. Maps that traditionally favor Zerg, right? You go, and the bigger the map, the more bases you can get, the better you're going to be in a position to be. But it does feel like that idea has changed itself around just a little bit. In fact, we saw Harstem in the lobby before this game asking, it's like, hey, you know, HateMe, why do you ban Hardwire over Glittering Ashes? I feel like Glittering is a worse map for Zerg than Hardwire is. So, you know, we do see that. At least Harstem does believe that Glittering Ashes is a decent map for Protoss players. We're going to have to see what he has in store. Is this more of a SkyToss idea? Is this, once again, that ground tech? Is he going to wait for 10 minutes, lose 25% of his supply, but come back in a much longer game? I don't know. But, you know, I'm down with that comeback idea because that gives interesting games for us to watch, right?
Yeah, and I mean, with how well HateMe has been playing the early to mid game, I absolutely wouldn't doubt his ability to get ahead again. And I think one of the main reasons why we see Protoss, or Harstem especially, say, well, why not ban Glittering Ashes? And the main reason is, if you look at the layout, especially of Glittering Ashes, all of the bases are on high ground. It is very hard as the Zerg to find a powerful mid-game push up a ramp to kill a Protoss. And so, because the map is so large especially, I feel like Harstem just says, hey, the advantages here for Protoss, they just outweigh those for Zerg, with the map just having more bases.
That he does. We're going to have to see if Harstem can do it again, whether HateMe is going to take us to game 3, because we have that big map. It's here. In the upper right. Oh, Captain, my Captain in the blue. He had a fantastic comeback in that first game for the Rebellion. Harstem.
And in the bottom left, showing an impeccable early to mid game. I mean, almost looked perfect. There were a few mistakes, but just could not close it out in the end. And that has been the story of his run so far in DreamHack. I have seen him talk about it. I've been in those Discord channels where he's expressed maybe, you know, his displeasure with how he's handled those situations. But let's see if he can pull it back, tie it up, and potentially win his second series for Platinum Heroes. It's HateMe.
I don't know why that intro splash is showing HateMe as the Rebellion is not. And I have it set for him to not be, but you know what? Sometimes it's not the Protoss that have the more powerful tools. Actually, sometimes it is the Protoss that have the more powerful tools, because clearly my tools are failing right now. But, you know. So it goes.
It happens. It happens. You know, there's always tech issues. It happens. I mean, you know, at least it's not the last few days I've produced, because those have been roller coasters. But we are on to Glittering Ashes. And as I kind of said, the layout of this map, obviously, there's a lot of advantages for Protoss. Especially where it's a map when you can take a very early and safe third. That's usually going to be a good map for Protoss. And the main reason you can do that is these ramps up into the bases. With those ramps, it becomes a lot harder for roach pushes to work, because you're having to go up onto high ground. No matter what the transition is for the Protoss, if you go air toss, if you end up doing a ground transition, it's very easy for you to set up on top of those ramps, make sure that the Zerg cannot punish you for taking greedy bases, and then the map is so wide open, it gets very easy for you to start using run buys, splitting it, and when your units are just going to trade more efficiently, that suddenly becomes very hard for the Zerg to deal with.
That's fair. I mean, we do not see Glittering Ashes end before 15 minutes. I mean, I know that's not totally true, and we do see it end, but it is the feeling this map has. I mean, it feels like you need to go to 5 bases before things really start to break down. So it's going to be interesting to see how Harstem looks to use that. Does he just play the same style he played last game? Does he go for the nouveau hero style, or do we see something that does involve more carriers early and more void rays earlier, things like that? For now, it's just going to be an Oracle opening, but a single Oracle does not exactly tell us quite everything, right? You can go Oracle into void ray. You can go even 2 Oracle into void ray, although that is less common, but it is starting to look a little bit more like Harstem does. You decide to go for that late game or that mid game focused Protoss style, even as the map gets bigger.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, I think one of the coolest developments we've seen, again, is from Hero on Glittering Ashes. Will go double Stargate Phoenix on this map, and he'll do his almost patented 2 Stargate Phoenix transition into Charge Blink, just Stalker Zealot, Ground Army, just run all over your opponent, play like a Zerg, and out micro everyone that you absolutely can. And the reason why it's so efficient is because the Phoenix, of course, moving so quickly, you are going to get map control. You're going to be able to mass them up and then spring them across the map very, very quickly. And again, what you want to happen is that forces a response out of the Zerg. They're surprised by it, so they need to respond quite heavily. And then your transition after that is going to have a lot less defenses prepared from your opponent.
Well, I do think it's interesting that Harstem has opted to only go double Oracle. Really, triple Oracle has been that standard. You're aggressive with 2 and you have 1 defensively at home, or even you have 3 for that first push. But I guess Harstem's saying that in the same vein as maybe I can't afford a 3rd Oracle on a Berlingrad because of how short it is and the aggression's maybe a little bit too scary. On Glittering Ashes, the map is so long that maybe you don't need an Oracle defensively anyway, so you can again cut that corner, stay on only 2, get your blink a little faster, get your +1 faster. But look at this, Harstem is pairing up these 4 Stalkers with Oracles. He hasn't found a lot of damage in terms of worker count. In fact, he has not killed a single drone, not killed a single queen. But with these Stalkers on the map here, he has been able to knock down Overlords, knock down a couple Zerglings that are trying to make something happen, and HateMe is just going to sacrifice more blood for the Blood God, splashes on the floor. But again, Harstem, he is trying to establish map control right now, enable that eventual push that he's looking for with Blink and +1 to become yet more powerful.
Yeah, but I gotta say, the HateMe there, losing 2 Overlords, of course, is a little bit unfortunate. Has also lost a lot of Lings, just a little bit sloppily. But it's still in a very healthy position. 61 workers so far, has Roach production on the way, and should be prepared for this eventual timing. It's seen that there's no 4th base on the way for Harstem, so knows that there's something in the works, and also has this Overlord tucked away that can fly through when he so decides he wants to get a scout on the tech of his opponent. And there we go. 4th base is going to go down. Roach production will continue, and it's not going to be an awful position for HateMe. Again, as you said, no drones killed, and I think, again, this is the biggest difference that we see between HateMe in his first season here and a player like Young Yakov, where the early game seems so much more solid for HateMe. Seems like he has a much better grasp of how to mitigate this early damage.
Yeah, so you're telling me if we put Young Yakov and HateMe together in a blender, we get a Zerg that makes the playoffs? Okay, I'll buy that one. But for now, Harstem, again, he's doing the exact same thing. Storm on the way, 4th base on the way. I do appreciate that he's getting more aggressive with these Blink Stalkers than he was, or even just the unblink Stalkers than he was in that last game. But even still, the Stalkers, they run home. It does seem like Harstem wants to wait for that max out of Storm Charge that Archon Immortal. And we saw how well that worked for the man last time. He almost lost that game. In fact, he probably should have lost that game, but we saw HateMe just be a little bit... sacrifice a little bit too much in the Sim City. So we're gonna have to see if Harstem does fall into that trap of, oh, I'm gonna build a bigger army than you, it's gonna be fun, or whether he is able to put that suppression tactics going once again. Because for now, Stalkers are out of the map. HateMe opting for a Spire this game, which on Glittering Ashes, if you're able to buy the time for it, is fantastic. Stalker blink off creep. And again, Harstem, he's just being a little bit more aggressive this time, but I feel like I want to see more.
Yeah, so far hasn't really pushed anything, has just been sitting back. Doesn't want to risk diving into this Zerg army, which is already very, very well prepared. And HateMe's already up to 83 workers. You know, the Spire on the way is preparing for that transition into, I would assume, is going to be Mutalisks. And then, of course, on a map like Glittering Ashes, where you have this split down the center, Broodlords we've seen used. I've seen DRG on this map use Broodlords to great effect before. This is a map where they're certainly viable even in the late game, because when you do go that ultra late game, still the best composition is of course going to be Broodlords, Corruptors, Vipers with your Infestors, and then also having, you know, Ling and Ultras for run bys.
So, well, here comes HateMe on the other side of the map. We don't care about Broodlords if this push from HateMe gets the damage it's looking for, but Lings, they show up and they run away because there are too many Zealots. They're not really going to work out. Oracles as that wonderful defensive utility. Archon's joining the fray as well. And Storms on top of everything. They're going to blanket it. It's a nice cozy blanket of death in this game for HateMe, but he's got to be careful because another Storm's going to get landed. And these Roaches are just so gosh darn low now. Harstem's going to look to chase them down. Oracle's finding value. And HateMe, I mean, he tried to get aggressive. He tried to hit some sort of timing. It didn't really work out for him, but look at what we have in the production tab behind this. Part of this was to force maybe Harstem into maybe more of a ground focus. He says, yeah, you know, I killed it, but there are 13 mutas, now 10 mutas on the way. He's going up to about 30 mutas here, and this army from Harstem, yeah, certainly. Oh, wait, it's sectioned out here just a little bit. Some of the Archons are not where the rest of the army is. Muta's looking for the surround here. And if you can get Ling Muta on top of this, it's a problem. Archons, they're targeted down immediately. The magic boxing from HateMe is fantastic, but Storm's on top of the Mutas. He's going to try to make this one happen here. We need to see the Archons. The Mutas, they're popping HateMe. They're going down. That's not what you wanted. The Muta transition, this is not J-Dog in 2013. This is not what he wanted. Harstem, he survives the transition, and now HateMe, he just spent so much money. 3,000 cast in the drain.
I mean, it felt like a situation where, honestly, those mutas go across the map. You probably find crippling damage to Harstem, but he wanted to try and kill the army. He just needed more reinforcements to do it. The Storms are beautiful. He has no Lings to get on top of the army, especially, so you just end up getting the mutas focused down, and now suddenly Harstem, he knows exactly what the tech is for his opponent. And again, it just feels like that situation where HateMe, it's the right idea, it's the right strategy, but just not executed well enough.
No, it's really not. Now the Mutas, they try to find their way across, but we're not at 30 Mutas almost. We're at 11. Yeah, they have +1, but 11 Mutas really do lack the damage potential of that one fell swoop. But you lose them to Storms, it's a big problem. So now here comes the army of Harstem up through the middle of the map here. Mutas again looking for that value. They're just going to target the Warp Prism down. Stocks blink backwards to try to deal with that one. Archon's at the front fighting strong, but this is a bit of a separated fight from Harstem. Feels like maybe he got a little bit too overconfident trying to deal with the Mutas trying to knock his Warp Prism down. But here we go. Now the Roaches, they're maybe running a little bit too far forward. Off of Creep, the Concave is fantastic. This game is not a game of throw and counter throw, but a game of players throwing fights into each other, just saying, I don't really care anymore. I got to make something happen. And of course, Harstem behind this, he does have Phoenix on the way. He has +1. The Muta tech will become more and more outdated as this game goes on.
Yeah, now you have Phoenix. I mean, they're going to be knocking down some Queens, some good transfusions, though, to keep them alive. And Harstem, he's working on 5 bases. He's going to be even with his opponent. These Mutas are going to try and get some damage done, but again, it doesn't have the same oomph as when you had 30 Mutas that could have just dived into the bases, you know, forced Harstem into a very, very uncomfortable situation. The Phoenix are just going to be able to fight this straight up. And for HateMe, suddenly you no longer have a transition. You know, you no longer have that big surprise attack, and so what's your strategy? Just massing up Roach, Ravager? But you're going up against Immortal, Archon, Storm, Charge Lots, Blink Stalkers, all of these tools for Harstem counter Roach Ravager.
So what you're saying is that Protoss have powerful tools.
I think you can make that assumption.
Yeah, sometimes they do have the more powerful tools, and that is just that is something. Now Muta's here on the map, or Phoenix, excuse me. It's only 5 of them. I think HateMe or Harstem has started to realize that HateMe is transitioning out of that Muta idea, but he has lost. Let's look at resources last year for a moment. It is a disgusting amount of minerals and gas For a while in this game, actually, Harstem had not lost a single unit. It took until, I think, the 8-minute mark for him to lose his first unit in this game. I mean, that's... when it's added together, it's even worse, Titan. 17k almost to 9k. That is one of the larger resource gaps I've seen in PvZ.
Yeah, it is. It's quite ridiculous how inefficient HateMe has been. I mean, again, losing all those Mutalisks, that's the majority of that. 38 mutas. That's 3,800 minerals and gas, and oh, HateMe kills his own Ravagers with Corrosive Biles. He's trying to set up a surround, but the Banelings get stormed. An Immortal is going to get caught out, but just this is not working out. The Storms are good to zone away the army. Harstem just making sure that he can retreat out of this position. HateMe, he wants to collapse on the army. He wants to get these Banelings on top of everything, but Harstem is just not giving him the opening too.
No, he really isn't. There are so many Storms on the map right now. The preemptive zoning storm, why not? Sure, but now we're going to see it happening in earnest. And yeah, Harstem has the read here. Banelings then run into Archons, and that is exactly what the Archons are for, Titan. Yeah, we're going to see 4 more morph in because their storms have been dropped. Harstem, he's getting +3 shields. He's getting armor here. This army is so heavily upgraded at this point that even if it was a straight up fight, even if the Banelings connected, I'm not sure that it would matter. A good lifts on the Ravagers. They pop, 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 pop. We call Archons balloons, but in this case, it is anything that the Zerg has. Banelings are looking for those connections as the Stalkers, they blink forward, but there really is nothing left for HateMe anymore. GG, he says. Well played, he says. Harstem. Storms are his friends.